Dreams has this cute little imp character, so we can use that to point at stuff in our scene and interact with it. Today I'll show you how to make point and click mechanics in Dreams. So here's our scene, and if we go to play mode, we can actually move around just as we do in create mode, which isn't necessarily what we want the player to be doing. I can zoom in or fly outside the scene. So to control where our view is, we can go to edit mode and add a camera gadget. And then if we scope in with L1 and X, we can view the scene from that camera's angle. And we can move around as we would normally. And when we scope out of the camera gadget is in the new spot. Now when we go to play mode, we're in that view, and I can't use my sticks to move around. Something important about using the imp with the camera is if we tweak the camera, we can see this box. The imp will be on the face of this box on this plane. So if we want it to be closer to the camera, we can drag that back. And now the imp is closer to the camera, so it looks bigger. But we can also scale the imp with the imp scale setting. We can scale that down. And now even though it's close to the camera, it looks like the normal size imp. And it will stay on the face of that box until we are grabbing an object and moving it around. So it's kind of important to get this right if you're using the imp for gameplay. If we drag this further into the scene, then the imp will stay beyond this object. And now it can just move freely behind it, and even disappear behind the goblet. Something else that's built into Dreams cameras is we can let the camera tilt around to follow the imp. So have a look at more of the scene around you. That's in the camera settings, in the imp tab. If we turn up the follow imp setting, it'll turn up to that angle to follow the imp. So you might have a book on a shelf you might need to find over here to solve a puzzle over there. This lets you add even more gameplay to the periphery of the scene. Let's say we want this to play a sound effect when we click on it. So let's find a sound effect. Go to sound mode, search, and search sound effects. I search for pour, and I think I'll use this Pour Drink by Funky Creeper. I'll bring it in and stamp it down, and I'll just move it next to the goblet. Any sculpt can act as something the imp can interact with. If we open this tweak menu and go to the physics tab, there's the Imp Interactions setting. Ignore means now it won't even collide with it. It can just hang out behind the goblet and hide from the player. Whereas on the default collide, if you put the imp tip behind it, it will jump to in front of the object. So you can always see the imp and see what you're doing. The imp body can hide behind things, but if the imp tip is on the sculpt, the whole thing will jump forwards. And then there's grab, which now means when I hover over the object, the imp tip glows and sparks, indicating you can grab it. And with R2 you can grab the object and move it around, though it won't move yet because it's immovable. If we turn on movable, now we can grab it and move it around, like so. If I just leave this not movable and make our focus distance shorter so the imp is closer to the camera, we can see that when we grab the object, the imp will zoom over to it while we're grabbing it. Now let's detect if we're grabbing it and activate logic in some way. We could animate it or activate this sound effect. The way we do that is in Sensors and Input, there's the grab sensor gadget. If we hold L1, the gadget will surface snap to sculpts in our scene. It will sense Imp interactions with whatever it's surface snapped to. Then it's got these outputs like grabbed and hovered. So if we put grabbed into the power of the sound effect, instead of just playing all the time, it will only play when we grab it. So when we grab the goblet, it plays our sound effect. But if we just grab it momentarily, every time we grab it like that, the sound will start again from the beginning and stop when we let go. If you want this to play all the way through when you grab it, we can tweak the sound and change the slice playback mode. The slice is what you see here. This is the waveform of the audio that will play from this sound effect. So the slice playback mode is how it will play when the gadget is powered. It might loop, for example. So when we keep holding the goblet, the sound effect will loop. If we put it onto once mode, then if we grab it and let go, it will keep playing until it's finished. So we can tap it and it will play all the way through. But we can still re-trigger this by grabbing it. If we want to prevent that, we can make the goblet non-grabbable while the sound is playing. So let's get a keyframe and tweak the sculpt, make it ignore Imp interactions, or maybe collide with the Imp, so that the Imp will still stay on top of it instead of disappearing behind it. But the grab will immediately stop as soon as we grab it, while the sound is playing. If I just turn the keyframe on and go to play mode, then we can't even grab it at all. If you have this working while we are grabbing it, then the moment we grab the goblet, it will become ungrabbable and will let go immediately. So now we can't hold it, we can only tap it, like this. I'm pulling R2 and holding it, but it just pokes the goblet. But then I could still grab it again, even though the sound is still playing. So now we want this to work while the sound effect is playing. It has an output of is playing over here. So while it is playing, we'll make it non-grabbable. So now we can tap it, but I can't grab it again until the sound is finished, or whatever animation or logic we have wants to let it be grabbable again. And that's just right. And you can do the same for any other objects you want to make grabbable. You just have a keyframe that makes it not grabbable and power it while you want it to be not grabbable. You can also do things like hide the Imp and make your own custom cursor for the look of your game, like a hand to play the keys, or a mouse cursor for on the TV. Check out the card for more videos about using the Imp. The grab sensor gadget also has this hovered output. Let's just make this glow while we're hovering over it to show the player they can interact with it. First I'll make a keyframe and tweak the goblet and give it some glow. Now when this keyframe is powered, it will set this setting to 16% and make it glow. So if we wire hovered into the power of the keyframe, it will glow while we're hovering over the goblet. Let's try that. So we hover over it and it starts to glow. We can even tweak the keyframe and give it some slow power up and slow power down. Now when we hover over it, the glow eases in and eases out, if that's how you want it to look. It doesn't count as hovering while you're grabbing though. So you could wire grabbed into the same keyframe, and now it will glow even while you're grabbing, if that's how you want it to work. Remember how when we grab it, the Imp zooms over to it? there is a way of making it not zoom over to it when you click on an object. And we do that by not using the grab. So if we make it not grabbable, just collidable, then the hover will still work, but when we grab it, we won't actually grab it. What we do instead is make this only send that it's hovered when we pull R2. So this grabbed output won't do anything, so I'll remove that. We're going to use a chip to hold some extra logic to control our grab sensor. For now, I'll turn this off and we'll turn it on when we want it to send whether it's hovering or not. So let's grab a controller sensor and I'll delete these extra wires it comes with and tweak it and put it into remote controllable mode, which means all these buttons will just work without us needing to possess a puppet or something. For now, I'll just put it on X. So I'll wire X into the power of the grab sensor. Now it won't think I'm hovering unless I'm holding X. And now it will show the glow because of the keyframe. If we wanted to know just the moment we click on the object, we can use a signal manipulator. Wire the X button in and put it into pulse mode. Now when I play time and press X, you can see the output flickers on just for a moment when we press X. And then we move that wire to here. And now when I press X on it, the object knows it's been clicked. And the glow flashes. We can use that to trigger whatever we want to, just as before. Or we could use this with R2, the same control we'd use to grab it. We can leave it on pulse mode, but now we need to pull it all the way until it's full and then it will flicker. All the way at the top, which isn't as comfortable to use. But if we go to custom remapper mode, we can click on remap curve with X to get to the threshold setting, and then change the edge mode to pulse at on. Now this means when the signal gets all the way up to this point, it will send a pulse. Now we can just reduce that input threshold we want to get to before it pulses. If we play time, you can see the signal going up as I pull R2 until it gets to here and then it sends that pulse. Now let's try that on the goblet. I pull R2 just a little bit and then it pulses. And we'll trigger our sound or whatever else we want to happen. Now if we wanted that same mechanic to work for multiple different objects, for example having another goblet, we'd have to wire that signal to power this grab sensor as well. And now it works on either of them. That's a bit annoying to have to do though, so instead of using a normal wire, I'll use a keyframe to turn on our grab sensor. And now when this becomes powered, the grab sensor turns on, and if we're hovering over the object, it will pulse that glow. So we want that to happen when we get the pulse from the signal manipulator. So we wire the output into the power of the keyframe. Let's just make sure that still works. If I pull R2 a little bit, and it flashes like that. And when we copy the goblet again, or just copy the grab sensor for some other piece of logic, this keyframe will be affecting the new one and the old one, without us having to wire it up manually. And I'll check if it works again. Works with the old one, and works with the new one, without the imp zooming in. And now we can use any button to activate these objects. That's all for this part. Please give the video a like and subscribe.